So the objective of this lab was to understand the concepts of underfitting and overfitting, right? And a way to, not a way, but we wanted to visualize these concepts with results on cross validation. And there were two sections. So the second section was dealing with the effects of constants like alpha and lambda, as Vineet uh, talked about earlier. So in this lab, the main objectives were these, right? So our data set had 33 features, right? I will not go into the details of this. And we had to predict attrition, which is a binary variable. So we are going to visualize these concepts using the models of decision tree and logistic regression, right? So attrition means basically that what is the like, if given some features, can we predict that an employee will be dropped from the workforce or not, right? So these are the input features, and we are predicting whether the employee is going to be dropped from the company or not. So that's your basic data set. So these are the libraries. I will come to these later, right? So we read the data as usual, print out some columns, and we print out the shapes. So we have 1000 columns and 34 features. 34 columns, with one being your output feature, output column. Then we print df.info. So we have a list of columns, and we can see the respective data types. So I wanted to check if there were any null values, like NA values or and stuff. So when I did this, run this line of code, I could see that there were no null values, luckily. So we don't need to do anything with this as far as null values are concerned. So I know that the categorical columns were these columns, right? So let me show that, in fact. So columns like these: department, business travel, education field. So these are like categorical columns, and so we basically need to one hot encode this so as to give equal bias to each aspect of these columns. So basically I created dummies, pt.get dummies, and I run over these columns, right? Then I drop these columns because I have to repeat. I don't need these columns after one hot encoding these. So I basically concatenate these dummies on the column axis, right? Then I print out the info again, and you can see that we have more columns now. So like for example, business travel has 3 more columns, and we basically replace the original business travel, right? So we had some yes no columns, right? So there were 2 columns: attrition, right, our output column, and overtime. So basically I use a lambda function and apply map so as to convert these yes no values into 1 or zeros. And same with gender, I convert the male values to 1, otherwise for female it would be 0. And I just check whether it worked or not. So in this case it worked. So now we define x and y, simple enough, right? Y being our attrition. So here I wanted to normalize, right? So I only wanted to normalize the columns which did not have values 0 or 1. So there's no point in one hot encoding the columns with 0 and 1, right? Because in that case you will have some different what do you call it, decimal values, and the point of one hot encoding would be removed. So I did this thing. So this is one of my own tricks. So basically I do this and I get the columns which don't have 0 and 1, right, in x. I'm checking this in x, not in y. So I normalize this normally with min max scalar, as fit transform, and I just display x, right? Now let's come to the main thing, overfitting. So overfitting and underfitting by itself is very confusing. Like when you read the theory, you normally see stuff like low bias, high variance, high bias, low variance. So I'm going to expand a little on that. So we are going to understand these concepts using these 2 models, like decision tree and logistic regression. So given these hyperparameters, right, no parameters here, some parameters here, I fit the model, right, and I just print the accuracy, right. On logistic regression, we see that our training split has 1 and test split has 0.94, right. Same with decision tree. So why is this overfitting? Like, how can we tell this is overfitting? So you see that our model here does very well on training, right? But it does way worse on on our test split. So you see, but when you say high variance, basically it means that the difference between the training and test split is very high, right? And when we are overfitting a model, we say low bias and high variance, right? I covered high variance, so let's see what low bias means. Uh, so in this case, wait, yeah. So high variance basically means that there's a big difference, like I said. And when we say low bias means that you're not giving enough weightage to your weights, right? You're not able to generalize your weights well enough to fit over a larger range of values. So when you fit your data points, right, you can see it's like exactly fitting the data points we give it. But when we do this for a test set, we don't get such a perfect model. So that's what we mean by low bias. It's a little confusing, I know. So now we know a little bit about overfitting, right? So as Vineet covered that we were working with cross validation, right? So we do the same thing for logistic regression and decision tree, so as to see the effects of cross validation and how we do it. So normally you use k-folds or stratified k-folds. You can use anything, doesn't matter. So shuffle split is basically a k-fold, but what it does is it does not sequentially split your your data set. It instead does it randomly, right? So it's possible for small data sets that the splits are same. So I usually use this because it has helped me empirically speaking. So yeah, so this is a little complex. I understand that. I actually made this function from somewhat from scratch. So basically, what this does is it displays what our model actually is and how it performs, right? So let's leave out this for a moment, right? So given this model with these parameters, right, we can see that on logistic regression our model somewhat overfits, right? You see the training accuracy is higher than the cross validation score. So earlier we were talking about a testing score. This time we are talking about a CV score. So you can see there's some difference here, right? And you can see that with increasing training examples, the fitting time takes a lot longer, obviously. And with increasing fit times, right, the more amount of time we give for the model to fit, the score gradually somewhat peaks and then decreases, right? So this is mainly for the test score. This is a test score actually. This is the test score. So it does very poorly on test actually. By test I mean cross validation, by the way. So we do the same kind of thing for decision tree and we see the effects, right? In decision tree, the difference is a lot more apparent. So if you have worked with decision tree quite often, you will notice that decision tree actually overfits a lot more often than other models, because decision tree works on the concept of splitting over data values. So if you don't control the splitting and stuff, it generally overfits. So you can see the clear apparent difference here, right? So this is the main part, that there's a big difference between training and test, and we can see that when our model overfits, right? Now coming to underfitting. Underfitting is the concept of high bias and low variance. So what do I mean by high bias, right? So as you can see, these are our data points, right? These are sort of curved, right? But the predicted line that we fit is like a simple straight line. So we are by high bias, we basically mean that we are like too specific with our model. So we just fit a straight line, and it's like not generalizing to your entire thing. So it does very poorly in that sense. And by low variance, we basically mean there's a small difference. Although we do not focus on the variance part when we are talking about underfitting, it's mostly about that you're getting worse results in terms of training. So we can see this here.
Raghav,
Yeah.
yeah, Vipul this side.
Okay, sir.
Actually, can you explain with the help of numbers, like training error or training accuracy and validation accuracy, and then you just tell when it is low bias, when it is high bias, when it is high variance, when it is low variance, with the numbers, so it will be much easier to grasp.
Okay, sir. Sir, I actually explained low bias, high variance earlier in overfitting. So I will explain high bias, low variance in this underfitting section. I will come to
Okay,
that.
great, great.
Yeah. So I train the same models again. In this case we have different parameters. Of course, we are trying to underfit this model in a sense. So when we print the accuracies, right? This is the case of underfitting. Do remember, we see that there are training accuracy is way worse. Like in decision tree, it's almost 68%, and earlier we saw it was like around 95 to 1%, right? The training accuracy. So we can see that this by high bias we mean that we are getting a very low training accuracy, and by low variance we mean that there's a very small difference between training and testing split, right? You can see that there's not much of a difference, like this, just about 3% of a difference, and same here as well. So that means this is a problem of high bias, low variance, basically a underfitting problem, that our model is just generally doing way worse training and test, right? So we can visualize these results. As you can see, so our on logistic regression, our training score is just about zero point 0.7, I guess. Yeah, 0.7, and you can see that there is very less difference between the training and cross validation score, right? In this case, it's cross validation. So you can see there, this is a low variance thing, and high bias because there is very low training accuracy. I hope that's clear, relatively clear, right? So we see the same for decision tree, right? Low variance, very low accuracy, so high bias, right? So let's come to regularization, right? As Vineet expanded on regularization, like lasso and ridge, and adjusting with constants and stuff. So we are going to see the effects of constants over our models, right? So it's important to understand. You see, when you are doing regularization, you are basically tuning the constants so as to make your model perform way better. So we just initialize a set of alphas, right? These are the values we will be testing on. So this is a log space, basically log values between 10 raised power minus 3 and with steps of 1000, right? So we initialize a list, coefficients for ridge model, train losses and test losses, and basically this thing is basically appending the results of losses and coefficients for different values of alphas, right? So we are basically seeing how our model does with different values of alphas, right? So we reshape the ridge coefficients, right? So this is actually a one-dimensional array when you append one-dimensional list, right? So we need to reshape in the form of number of alphas, comma, number of features. So for each set of features, we have a different value of alpha, right? And the compilation of this particular example is how we reshape this entire list, right? So we can visualize the results as so. So basically, this is a log scale graph, right? We plot the values of coefficients with respect to the value of lambda. So you see lambda being this specific constant, right? So in this case, this is L2 norm, right? So in L2 norm, we square the weights. So in this case, the lambda would be this. So as we can see that with very low values of lambda, like very low values of lambda, we see that the coefficients are relatively, very, very, variant, right? Since this is a log space, we are able to see the variance of the values of coefficients. So with very small values of lambda, we see there's a huge variance of coefficients. But as we increase the value of lambda, we can see that the coefficients kind of minimize, or we can say delineate into one single line, right? So in what this means is, as we increase our value of lambda, the effects of coefficients become very less, right? They almost become equally weighted. I hope that makes sense. So that's the effect of coefficients with alpha. Then we can see the variance of the plot of train loss, our training loss, with the different values of alpha, right? So alpha in this case just means lambda, right? So as and when we increase the value of lambda, we can see that our train loss, almost exponentially or sigmoidally increases. So when you put a very high value of lambda, the reason the train loss increases gradually is because you're putting too much weight. You see too much weight on your weights, or too much emphasis on your weights. So you basically distort your model in a sense. So that distortion causes a very high value for your train loss. And we can see the very same for test loss. In fact, test loss is way higher than train loss, as you can see. And so we basically see the same thing for L1 regularization. So L1 is this thing. So we do not square our terms, right? We take the mod of our weights and we multiply by lambda. In this case, our lambda is C, right? We are changing the value of C. So in the sklearn implementation, we change the value of C. So we do the same thing, initialize coefficients as an empty list, train losses and test losses, and we test and we append the results for different values of C. And accordingly, we reshape again, right? Then we see the effect of C over our coefficients, right? So for very low values of our C, we can see that our coefficients are mostly constant, right? But as soon as we make it way bigger, the value of C, we can see that the variation increases extremely. So the more the variation we see in coefficients, it's more probable that your model will do a little worse. We will see that soon. So as you can see that the train loss, when we plot the train loss against the values of C, sorry, not worse, it does better actually, not worse. So as we increase the value of C, we can see that the train loss, right, initially it's constant, right, around 0.7, then it increases rapidly, right? So this is very good. So with more values of C in L1 norm, we can see that our train loss almost plateaus here, right? It's almost zero basically. And however this is actually test loss, not train loss. We are plotting the values of C against test loss. So as you can see that first it dips very well, like similarly to this. Then somehow it when we increase the value of C, it immediately jumps into a very high value. Almost this, in fact, it's higher than 0.7. So this is very interesting. So our value of C kind of overfits our training set, and it does not do well on a test set. You can see the effects. So you have to control these values of C, alpha, lambda. So if you can compare these graphs, right, train loss and test loss, you can see there is a very close sweet point. See, here our loss is relatively low, and so is here. So we can actually choose a value of a C here to be around, let's say, this would be around this would be around 5. Yeah, this would be around 5 or 1, I don't know, but it would be some value where there's a sweet spot of lower train loss and test loss. So the entire aim of in order to get better performance, in order to understand if our model is performing better, we need to reduce our model in such a way that we produce results in the form of low bias and low variance. So low bias basically means that you're generalizing well, right? Low variance means that there's a very small difference between your training accuracy and test accuracy. So I hope that much is clear and the visualization was precise enough. So if you have any questions, do ask.
Okay, let me ask few questions. Maybe then they will open their brains. So suppose I have one scenario, and in that particular scenario we have our training loss, or you can say training accuracy, is around 65%, and your test accuracy is around 64%. So in which category you will put this particular model?
So technically this is low variance since there's very less difference, right? There's very less difference between the accuracies, and this would also be in the category of high bias actually.
Yeah, so you can say it's a high bias, but low variance, because variance is low because if you compare with the training loss, then it is quite low.
Yes.
Right. Now suppose we have another category. So question from to the participants. So another question, like suppose we have a training loss around training accuracy around 95%, and your test accuracy is around 80%. So in which category you will put?
Sir, overfit.
Overfit. So in that case, like how you will compare with bias and variance?
So there is a high variance, means
High
too much
variance,
of,
low bias, you can
yeah.
say. Right. Okay. Suppose we have another category where we have the training accuracy is around 98% and your test accuracy is around 97%.
So that be low variance, low bias.
Yeah. So it means it is belong to low variance and low bias because your training accuracy is also good and comparatively your testing accuracy is also good. Okay. Suppose we have a uncertain situation where your training loss is like around 60, training accuracy is around 65%, but suddenly you got like testing accuracy is around 75%. Then in which category you will fall and maybe what can be the reason? Yeah.
So that might be just a random situation because it's not always true, or that might be because the graph is like the data set is somewhat biased, maybe.
Right. So that can be like your distribution of the data. Whenever you split the data, it's not okay. So that, or in the testing set you have very less examples. That can be also a reason. For example, you have 1000 data points, and out of 1000 you have given 990 to the training and 10 for the testing. So then it's that kind of situations arise. Like for those 10 data points, by chance your model is giving good answer. So this can be the possible condition. So I think you got my point, what I want to convey.
This
Anyone, any other question?
one
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, Raghav.
actually,
Yeah.
the peculiar situation that Sir described would also be called high bias, high variance problem. This is actually very rare whenever you make models.
High bias, low variance.
High bias, high variance, it will come like whenever your training accuracy is like around 65% and your testing accuracy is around like 40% or 55%, then you can say it's a high bias, it even not trained, and whatever training has done, that is also not good in the testing at all. So
So,
whenever difference between both of them and your you can say training accuracy itself is low, then you can say high bias and high variance.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the first case that you gave, like the training error is 65% and the testing error is 64%.
Yeah.
Like in that case, like we need to have a baseline estimate, like that human base error. There is something called human base error. Like if that is also 65%, in that case I will say that my the model is performing in an excellent manner. So in that case I'll say it's
True.
low bias and low variance.
Completely agree. So in even you can say this situation is coming in the medical domain, specifically in the medical domain.
Yes, sir.
Whenever
Yes, sir.
you are competing with the doctors, actually your model is competing with the doctors. If doctors accuracy itself is 65% and even your model is achieving 60%, means you have very good model.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Definitely.